everybody, welcome back to the Monday edition of Reaper Pro Tips with me, your host, Anne, Disembodied Hands, Quindy, Disembodied Beard, John, my puppy when she feels like showing up, which lately is not, lazy dog. How are you guys? It's a morning. Hey, Crowley. No coffee, not even any caffeine. I'm the opposite. I'm the anti-Crowley now. So I was wrong. I thought it was going to be Corindra today. I forgot we had Dragonborn, Dragonfolk, Dragon thingy Paladin. Hello. Yes, a dragon that's not Julie for once. It's not a Julie dragon. It's amazing. Does that even exist? It's Monday, yeah. It's Monday. I actually felt like I woke up right at the midpoint between sleep cycles today, which means I'm actually awake and focused, but it means my awakeness is an illusion and it won't last all day. Indeedy. All right. Let's do some scales today. I wanted to test something, because I actually did have bright turquoise around, and it's really close to the mixture that I was doing of Tianzia and cyan. So I was going to test it and see how close it really is. I may have inadvertently custom mixed myself some bright turquoise when I did that mix. Oh, don't make her sad, Kuroniko. She does the best she can with what she has. Let's see. Oh, this needs even more shaking up. 1 second. When you open the top and it's just like a bubble of clear liquid, you're like, really? Really? I know I haven't used you bright turquoise, but really? Okay. So let's see if this is actually a good fit. Let's go back a bit. There we go. Boom. This might be a little blue. Yeah, it is. So bright turquoise is much bluer. Bluer, is that a word? You can see it even. More blue than we had started out with. But I wanted to see what it would be like, if it would be close enough, so that's all right. Not a waste. Let's grab some Tianzia Jade and see if I can actually shift it. Yeah, I was going to say dragon insulting. Although you're familiar enough with them, Kritiko, one presumes you know the etiquette enough that you would be able to skate the dangerous line between amusing the dragon and getting it to eat you. Otherwise, you'd certainly have been eaten long before now, with how many dragons you associate with on a daily and weekly basis. And my Tianzia wants to just clog up. Of course, it's going to be one of those days, folks. One of those days. Hopefully that works. So Tianzia Jade, I'm reaching for it because it's the closest thing I have to a pure phthalocyanine green. We didn't actually keep the phthalos in production, which I wish we would have. After we did them for ReaperCon, they were never released, which is a shame. But I'll be using this instead. I'm actually going to add it to the bright turquoise, see if I can shift it in the direction I want. That way it's not a waste of bright turquoise. Everybody should have color cards. They make it so easy to reconstruct what you're doing. Even if, like me, you decide to go in a totally different direction to get to your color. And this is just showing y'all that there's more than one way to get to the color you want. You need a lot more blue and a lot more green than that. Actually, it's getting close. Let's see. Thin a little more, and then I'm going to pop more green in. Color cards are just insurance, color insurance for the disorganized mind. My mind is a cool mind and all, but as far as organization goes, it's It's not Topsy's. Let's see. So when I dab that onto my color card and let it dry, I'll be able to see how it looks really close though. That's funny, Critico. So yeah, that's actually really, really close. So I think I'm going to go with it. Well, and if you're fine, I mean, close enough is good enough, Lunatic, really. But if you like to have a reference, especially if you're working, I do it because I have certain colors I work with all the time. But I also do mix it up from time to time, and when I mix it up, especially if it's a weird color, if it's a color combo that I don't normally use, I just like to keep track. So that way, because on stream, I want to be able to zero in on the color I want quickly and get back to work. So, but yeah, these are just little artist trading cards. They're the size of a magic card. You can buy them. This is the watercolor paper one, but I also use the Bristol ones, Bristol board ones, which are just, you know, just thicker cardstock. They both work because you're not putting a lot of fluid on them at any given time, and I just keep the reference card right under the model on the shelf, and that way I always have it. So yeah, I did manage to. I was thinking about red on those little feathers, wasn't I? Yeah. Let me grab my blood red since we're working with it. Hey, Kodiak. So I think I am gonna block in those feathers in red. I was also gonna do the eyes. Well, let's. All right, I have a plan. We'll do the eyes first, then we'll judge. Because I was gonna make the eyes glow, because otherwise they're so tiny, you'll never see the red. That's the only downside. So I'm going to get pure white out here on the right. Just bringing my palette together here. I like to keep my color progressions separate, so I don't have a real plan here, but I'm keeping my teal separate from my red separate from my white. I want to work with... Do you need more of this, though? Didn't quite get a 4-drop puddle there. Little drops. Sometimes the bottles squeeze out littler drops. Alright, let's do just 1 drop of fluid in there. 1 drop, 2 drops there. Yeah, I mean, bright turquoise is a good color. It's like, and now you know that you can shift it with Tianzia Jade, Kuriko. So you can make it a greener turquoise if you want it to be so. Which sometimes you do. Although bright turquoise is a teal that that's the teal that David likes to use. The bluish teal. He doesn't like, if it gets too close to green, he doesn't like it. Because he hates green. I'm forbidden to show you his new project. I asked and he's like, nope. Because it's Golden Demon, he's keeping it secret. Hey, Zachariah. So I busted out over 2,000 words yesterday at Write Club on Rite of Winter, and that felt good. Even though I had to stop a chapter and start a new chapter in the middle, which is usually not as productive for me. But I was not complaining. So all right. So that's going along. That leaves me at an average of above 500 words a day for the month. So if I can be a good Anne for the next several days, I can. That's my goal. I'm not doing a daily writing goal, but I'm doing a, because it varies depending on what I have to do. So one thing I'm going to want to do also is kind of line around these eyes like I usually do, but I'm just seeing, I think my white needs to be a little bit thicker. Yeah, gonna need to be thicker. So, all right, if we're gonna do glowing eyes, which we almost never do because we almost never have a model that's worthy of it, that actually would work with it. So this is pretty good for that because, I'm going to push this out of stream so we can see it. Because these eyes are not deeply set, you can see that even with an eye ridge, it's not really casting a hard shadow on the eye. This means you can get away with that glowing effect. If you have eyes that are too sunken in where there's a real shadow or actually overcasting them, all the lighting effect in the world isn't going to project the way you want it to because you're fighting an actual shadow. But because the head here is really just kind of, it's kind of flat, you can see it. Even though it is angled, the light is still falling just fine, so we're going to be able to use that. I'm going to grab my Elven Green and Storm Chaser mixture here. I'm pretty sure that the color teal is teal itself, but I don't know. That would be a Google. I would assume that duck is named after the color rather than the other way around, but I am not certain. So we've got a 3-to-2 mix of Elven Green and Storm Chaser for my dark. And I'm also going to grab, probably want to grab some walnut for this. Because I'm going to need a harder liner. And of course my Storm Chaser wants to clog. Everything is clogging today. This is the way of Mondays. And now it's like stuck up. It doesn't want to come out, so that means it's really got to get unclogged. Otherwise, it's all gonna splooge when I put pressure on it. Yeah, I don't know. Somebody has to Google that to find out if you really want to know. Definitely the Googs that would know that rather than I. I know some color origin stuff, but it's not what I focused on. I focused more on the nuts and bolts. Color etymology is like not as much my thing. Color was named after the duck. Well, that's cool. That's unusual. Although that would imply that teal is greener than blue. More green than blue, in which case David's doing it wrong. But the turquoise still stands because turquoise is more blue than green. So bright turquoise is named correctly. I would just like to stand on that. My color naming conventions are correct. Alright, I've got... How's that looking? Yeah, it looks good. Gonna put a little dab over on my card to make sure. Yeah, it's good. Yeah, Zachariah? Yeah, I mean, I try to call the numbers what they look like, right? Makes less confusion. Like Centaur Brown, who knows what color a Centaur is anyway? But we do have a Griffin tan. I mean, everybody knows that a Griffin is lion colored though, so that wasn't too bad. A typical Griffin anyway. There are plenty of tiger and snow leopard Griffins painted on miniatures out there. Just getting my walnut ready here to do some shading, lining, etc. Then we'll get back to the eyeballs on this. Technically, with a glowing eye, we might not actually have like a real visible hard shadow, but I'm going to accentuate it. Technically, with a glowing eye, the eyelids are going to block the light just a little tiny bit, so you will still see the outline around the eye of shadow before you hit the glow that's hitting everything around it. Well, if some enigmatic woman walks up to you and starts singing, you'll know who it is, Quindy. I'm going to put a dark shadow around the eye with my walnut. I need to get a thicker puddle of pure white here, so that I can make a stronger highlight on that eye. But I'm making it separate because I still want to use that thinner white to do the glowing thing. Well, now we really know it's you. If you add in all those like factors, Kearney, with a dragon t-shirt, let's just add that in. We might as well. Alright, so now I've got a 4-to-1 mixture of pure white and water, more or less. It's going to give me a much brighter white in the eye itself, which is what I need. I'm going to artificially enlarge the eye a little bit. Especially with something this tiny, it's quite easy to do if you do a big shadow and then you paint it over. It's possible to flood the area with white and essentially take up the area that you would normally like line around the outside of the eye, right? And then you've got the white inside of it. You essentially flood the white essentially everywhere you would normally be putting the line around the eye, and then you just shade around that. So essentially you artificially enlarge the eye to make it bigger to serve your nefarious purposes. Derek Schubert did it a lot on Sandy Garrity minis because they had such small eyes. You don't have a dragon t-shirt? Carnigo. Like, I'm seriously disappointed in you here. There are so many cute dragon t-shirts out there, and you are a dragon fiend. Like, what's wrong? What disconnect there? Like, blah, 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 blah. Seriously. You've reduced me to gibberish. Of all the people in the world, except maybe for Rhonda, but I know Rhonda has a dragon t-shirt. Many dragon t-shirts. Of all the people in the world, I would think that you would have dragon t-shirts. Yeah. Go to Tea Turtle and find a cute one. Yeah, or somebody's going to be gifting you dragon t-shirts like ReaperCon. There we go, Quindy LaRue. Alright. Well, at least you know that you don't want to... I mean, we know you're the goth girl. I would think that that would be antithetical to your being. So I'm just putting in some walnut shading around that, which is adding that is just going to help me isolate the eye a little bit. I'm gonna make sure that this one, okay, it's okay, but I think I want to paint that a little bit more. Yes, that one's pretty standard, Shadow Raven. Obviously your DM was not a goth girl, and neither was the dragon. Oh, now we need the goth girl dragon. Get on that, Julie. Alright, so I'm going to use my thinner white now and sketch around the eye. I'm going to try to make it come back to the eye and be brighter right next to the eye, and then we're going to like bring it out. We're going to be doing this with a very small amount of white, like as far as both on our brush and the fact that it's thinned. And we're going to, wherever we get too much, we're going to take our base coat, which is why I just mixed it up, and we're going to blend that back. Yeah, toothless counts. So we can blend that in a little bit with our thingy, and we can keep going with the top. Oh, okay, that's classy, Kerniko. That's classy. Yeah, thanks, Tristan. I don't know if it's my thing. Oh, you said for Kerniko. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, if it's a toothless Chateau Noir, I'm into it. That's fantastic. That's a classy dragon t-shirt. So the other challenge on this is the fact that the everything is so small, right, on 28. And when you're doing this kind of effect, I usually like to do it on bigger models. Dragons are a really good one to do it on because they're big. But these little tiny dragons, the problem is you have so little room to convey the glow effect. And normally you'd want to spread that glow out and fade it, but when you've got such a small amount of space, it's really hard to do that. So I'm going to take some of my pure strength, my full strength white, I'm going to try to put it right around the outside of my lining. And then we're going to try to fade that white in. Because the problem is, with glow, it's going to fade exponentially as it moves away from the light source. So right away, you've got so little room to convey that information. So you can see, I hope, why doing a glowing eyes on a 28 is really kind of fraught. Normally I wouldn't do it. If the eyes were not so tiny, I would not have done this. Because it just doesn't look that great. And I'm not into any effect that just doesn't look that great. That might be as good as I can get it. Just trying to bring up that glow a little bit so we can blend it. We'll see how that looks. Do the other side. Yeah, they are hit or miss. I agree. I tried to use a plant identification one for a while, trying to find flowers and stuff, but it definitely was hit or miss. I have no doubt that over time they'll get better, but right now they weren't that useful to me. I deleted the one I had. Plus, a bunch of them are behind a paywall, and I really have no urge to pay for something that I just am curious to use every once in a while. Yeah, no idea. Though I did run into, even Googs was putting something behind a paywall the other day, and I'm like, if this is the way of it, it's like Googs hasn't learned its lesson. Alright, so we start with just a little bit of a foggy effect, and then we're going to try to grab our more full strength white and see what we can do. And also to do this is just like a lot of fine motor control. Better fine motor control than a lot of miniature painters have. So you can practice to get there, but a lot of people get afraid of the fail aspect, because you're going to fail a lot when you first start out. So again, wouldn't recommend. Glowing effects on miniatures tend to be better if they're like a weapon or coming from a lighting effect that's held up, or some object that's up against the model, although that can be very distracting. You need to watch your composition. But if you just want to practice, this, however, is how I would execute glowing eyes on a larger model. That's better. This side is better than the other side. Just looking back and forth. I think I need to fade out this and bring these guys up a little more strongly. I think our world is going very paywall heavy. That's why I try to keep some of my stuff free. Then if people want to join my stuff and pay for more, that's great. But and to be fair, Google still, Googs is free. It's just a search engine. Just some of its advanced features I'm noticing are starting to get paywalled. That's good to know, Korniko. BirdNet. Okay, trying to double down a little bit. There we go. Oh, that's cool, Korniko. It's a smart thing, then. My favorite free app is actually an astronomy app. It's one where you can point it at the sky and it'll tell you if the star you're looking at is a planet or a part of a constellation, or, what it is. It'll find constellations. It'll even look through the Earth and extrapolate. Which one do I use? I really like stars. I use, let's see, Sky Guide, I think, is the one I've been using. Sky Guide is cool. Last I checked. Yeah. You can subscribe, and you can have a lot more, you know, stars and more zoom and satellites and stuff, but, like, it's just, yeah. It's just looking wherever you're looking, and it'll, like, tell you stuff, so if I'm looking out, it'll like tell me what it'll tell me what I'm looking at, and then I can like move it around. But I really like it. It'll tell you what direction you're looking to. Yeah, Sky Guide. It's fun. It's fun when you're taking a walk in the evening and the stars are just starting to come out, so you're seeing only the brightest ones. And they're usually part of constellations, or they're satellites, or they're you know, there's cool stuff. And usually, I think it can actually identify. If you get the paid version, it can actually identify satellites, like actual satellites zipping along if you see one. But the free version is more limited. But usually, I just want to find out if I'm looking at Mars or Venus, you know, or Saturn. So. Yeah, it works past clouds. Because it's essentially taking kind of a reading of where you are on the Earth and the direction you're pointed, and it knows the sky conditions from any given point on Earth, one assumes. So it'll even look through the Earth. Like, if you want to know, like, if you're like, well, where's Venus? And you look down, Venus is on the other side of the Earth from you. So it extrapolates, yeah. It's pretty cool. Oh, that's why I held off making these red, because I was going to do the shoulder plates red. That's right. All right. Well, let's do the eyes and the shoulders. Maybe the feathers do get to go black or neutral then. Alrighty. The eyes are pretty much ready. But yeah, I like... Back in Texas, we had a telescope. Was inconvenient because it was very large, but it was cool to be able to look at the nebulas and look at Saturn and see the rings and stuff like that. Can't get real close with any little telescope, but it was still cool and fun. If I ever lived somewhere like Santa Fe is like prime stargazing country, because there's very low humidity and you have a high altitude because it's high desert. So it's actually one of the best spots to own a telescope. You can also get outside the city and there's not much light pollution at all. Alrighty. So I've got my clear red. I haven't thinned it too much. I want it to be... There's the clear red. I want to make sure it's pretty potent. I'll need to thin it probably before I put it around the outside of the eye, but we'll see. Yeah, poisonous crap sucks. So red eyes. And I'm going to thin this just a little. That's why we had to tear out our oleander in our backyard. Plus, I just kind of hate oleander. But yeah, we didn't want the keekster encountering the poisonous plant. Just going to glaze over this. I'm going to grab my brush, dry it off, and pull the excess color out. That's making it a bit pink, but we're getting there. And also just really lightly brush the color over the area instead of doing a big puddle of glaze. Arguably a little bit more efficient. Now, as the red goes onto the green scales around, it is going to actually gray them out because we're dealing with complementary colors here. And this red has no magenta in it. If there was magenta, it would actually take it more cool and blue. But being an orange phase red instead, so having the white underpainting allows the red to go outside of the eye without losing the color. Otherwise, if you just painted this red over the scales without the white underpainting, you wouldn't get a glow effect at all. You'd get kind of a grayish color surrounding the eye. Grabbing and thinning my red a little bit more again. So today, over the weekend, I finished shooting my last episode of my Marika paint-along. Lasted way longer than I wanted to because it's such a complicated model. I resolved not to do another complicated model. So probably on the 1st, I'll be putting up the official announcement on my Patreon of the new paint-along. I'm going to just get a little bit of white in here where I lost some of that glow. You can see his eyes her eyes are just kind of glowing a little bit. But you can also see that gray. Like if you look close, you can see how that kind of grays out when it gets out here. Grays out the green a little bit. If it's really large, I would think about airbrushing it, JBT. It's going to be, the bigger the model, the harder it is to layer. The way that I tackle big muscle models is I actually wet blend. I start by wet blending the muscle groups. And that sets you up with an automatic blend off the gate, and then you layer up from there. And you layer down if you need to. I don't remember if I've done a video on the Patreon about doing that. I know I've done wet blending videos. We did it on the troll though. I mean, I'm pretty sure we did it on the troll. The troll was a lot of wet blending because I used a wet palette for him. But this guy, we did, we wet blended muscle groups and then we went back and layered where I needed highlights. So if you go way back to Rock Troll, it was a long time ago. It was a couple of years ago, I think. You'll be able to see how I tackle that. So essentially you would choose your shadow color and then probably a very pale, either that shadow mixed with a lot of white or a very pale skin color, and you would just start out with a wet blend. Wet blends will never give you both your darkest shadow and your highest highlight because you're mixing everything together. So you're going to essentially get a little bit higher than your shadow color through to a little bit darker than your highlight color. Then you take your real shadow color and your real highlight color, thin those down, and actually layer. That it saves you a lot of work. Now, wet blending, though, is not for the faint of heart because, you know, sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. It's subject to environmental influences, and it can be frustrating. So, see if it works for you. You may need to practice a bit. I do have a video on how to do it on my Fundamentals series on YouTube, as far as just general wet blending on a cape. But there are tips on there, so you may want to go look if you haven't. There we go. Quindy's got the playlist for the Rock Troll for you. I believe we started with skin, so should be at the beginning. All right. Now I chose to do the eyes early because I didn't want to waste a whole bunch of time like highlighting and shading the scales around the face only to have to wipe them out with a red glow. But it does make the eyes visible, and that's what I wanted. I wanted those eyes visible. That was really the goal. Now I can put a tiny bit of white at the center. You guys can see how tiny that bit of white is. There it is. And then we'll try to do the same with the other side. That is, again, the crazy brush control function of the Anne. But if you never do the brush control, you won't build it. And the reason I'm doing this white, oh, that one showed up better. The reason I'm doing this white is that if you put that dot of white in the middle, that's what fires up this glow effect. Like, because in order for it to look like glowing, you've got to have that light, right? And the way you do that light is by putting a pure white or near pure white focus in the middle of the area. And that's what like makes the glow really show up, as you can see. Now it looks like it's glowing. Looks like she's got fire in her eyes. I like it. This side needs to get a little more red. Stayed a little bit too pink. There. That's good. So yeah. So doable, difficult. But the eyes now show up. Yes. Good, good, good. So I'm going to zoom out because it's hard to stay in camera range when I'm really zoomed. So there we are. That's nice. It's nice that that worked. So now we have a glowing eyes reference. Given these are not, well, whenever you're going to be doing glowing eyes, you're going to be doing that solid colored eye usually. Kind of a waste to put a pupil in a glowing eye. Unless it's a very big dragon eye, then you can make it work because you have enough room on either side of the pupil to do the glow. Yeah. That's good. That's because that's a problem with tiny eyes is it's hard to put a mood or emotion in them. So we're going to bring this red up here. Now we are going to darken down the red on these Paladin. We're going to bring in a shadow. I'm kind of starting with a bright red because I wanted it to be fairly saturated, rather than starting with dragon red and then totally having to work it up to get this bright red. Though as it dries, it will go darker, but now with the eyes, I don't feel like I need those feathers to be attention grabbers. As long as I've got something up at the top of the mini, that and the horns I think I'm going to go really pale with. We'll work on the face today, I think, after I get this red blocked in. Oh, when I was mentioning the paint along, I wanted to make sure, I'm sure Quindy spammed everybody. That's patreon.com/paintingbig. The paint along level is the highest paid level. It is the $15 one. The thing about the post, though, is that when I do that, you know that there is a completed paint along that's just been done. So if you sign up, you get access to all of the paint along stuff I've done in the past. So you get access to all the Marika lessons. Though, if you start, honestly, if you start on my Patreon and you decide to sign up for paint along, go back and do the first one I ever did, which is the Dragonborn Rogue from Dark Sword, if you have access to Dark Sword where you are and you're part of the world. That I really was concentrating on making that an introductory type of lesson, whereas the other ones are more advanced. I'm going to go back to that introductory style soon with this new paint along, so that I'm working with more beginner intermediate, with just a little bit of, then we'll start out with beginner intermediate and then we'll jump it up, with additional details probably. But it'll be more, if you've never done a paint along before, the new one will be, or the first one will be the best ones for you. All right, so I'll line around those. Paladins, I feel like we have, if I back out now, I want to look at color composition. I feel like we have enough red. I feel like the red pulls your eye around the model, now that it's also up around her eyes. So I like the amount of red we have right now. I don't feel we need it on these feathers. I think I'm going to do black in there. And I might do black do a blue-black up here. Because once you have a certain number of brighter colors on the model, you want to start reaching for your mediums. You really want to, or your neutrals. You want to start reaching for your neutrals big time. Otherwise, you're going to get way overwhelmed with all these bright colors, and it's just like really confusing, and it's hard to focus on anything. So make sure that you use your darks. So like I take my walnut, and definitely use the walnut to block in the back of this shield, except for the edge, which is totally metal. Metal man. Oh, Quindy, I had to make another medical appointment thing. I'm going to be out both February 7th and February 8th. Because I just decided to combine it. It's all at the hospital, so I'd combine it. I had to take a morning appointment because I had already slotted in a noonish appointment. So yeah, February 7th and 8th I am out. I think it's a Wednesday and a Thursday. I couldn't even plan myself a 3-day weekend. It's very annoying, but hopefully, other than the MRI, this is the last of the tests. The MRI is still up in the air because they're checking my insurance. Yeah, it'll be like red and orange. It'll match the model, Pendrake. But I'm holding off on that a little bit. So I'm going to start with a walnut here. I'm going to go more with, not with walnut, but with actual black, probably for the feathers and the hammer. Although I could use walnut. I mean, for volcanic rock, a really, really black brown is feasible and perfectly, it's actually realistic. Although sometimes they're more gray. Depends. But if you're going to make it glowing, using walnut actually is not a bad call. And I'm just not caring so much if I'm precise here. Just want to really get everything blocked in. Since I have the color out, I might as well. Yeah, exactly. That's why the MRI needs to... They told me they'd contact me in about a week, so I'm going to contact them if I don't hear in a little more than a week and see. Because I'm not paying for it. I don't even remember how much they'd be out of pocket, but 15, 20K or more. I have no idea. They're so expensive. So, yeah, we'll see. Waiting on that. But that, I think, knock on wood, will be the last medical thing for a while. I just committed to getting all this crap taken care of in the beginning part of this year, so that I didn't have to worry about it. Alright, so we've got a lot more lining to do, but we can ignore most of it and work on the face. You must be getting bonus ones, right? Buy 2, get 1 free. We wish. Oh, man. Hee hee. Alrighty. Let's work on the skin. Now, up here on the face, we have a lot finer scales. And so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take our mid-tone color, and I'm going to paint it in broad strokes over the top of everything, not caring about the individual scales. We just want to get that this is up in the light on top of the head. And then I'll start maybe picking out some details as it goes down, although yeah, we'll do that. And what I'll do then is to pick out details on the top of the head, I'm going to mix up and use our highlight color that we use down here on the leg, this lighter greenish color. Buy 9, get 10th free. Oh dear. So these are tiny little scales, and again, if you don't have the fine motor for it, just consider painting them in like rows. probably going to be enough. Or you could stipple and just not worry about whether you're being real precise. Just try to get close. You can absolutely just highlight the general areas, leaving some of the shadows. And then try to stipple on the highest highlight. And this is where if we wanted to, underpainting would help us. So let's actually do some of that. Let's try that. Because we're taking, again, as I mentioned down here, we're taking color and we're putting it over dark. And I did want to keep her scales, you know, looking a bit darker so that they stood out more, and that worked. But up here on top of the head, I need some stuff to stand out lighter. So let's do a little bit of underpainting and then use our midtone over it, and we can show you the difference. And with the underpainting, I am going to try to be a little bit more precise. Let's see if this is going to be a strong enough color. So I'm not really paying attention to the exact scales here. If I can hit them, I hit them. But if I can only just get a little bit of a speckling, I'm okay with that. And if I'm not precise, it's okay. This is the kind of fine motor that you get by practicing this sort of stuff a lot, though. It's not like I have super powered reflexes. I never have. Like, my dexterity score is not that high. But I've been doing this tiny little stuff and, you know, trying it and failing at it and succeeding at it for so long that if it's a good day, I can hit these tiny little details. Papa, what are you doing? I'm hearing some sort of chewing that is an unfamiliar sound. I'm like, what have you gotten a hold of, Doglet? So, getting just some little bits here. Then let's get a little bit of white on top of the muzzle. And if we don't like this, it's easy. We have to paint the area over, but that's all right. I committed to that when I decided to try this. It's not like painting it over is going to painting it over once is not going to lose us detail, even on a model with this fine detail. I'm going to leave a little bit of white though, or of dark behind the nostrils so that those show up. It's another thing this underpainting can do for us. And I'll put a little tiny bit all right, now let's put our base over it. It's not the brightest. I didn't take the underpainting super bright. But now when I put this underpainting over the top, we're getting a lot more color, see? Because we're not fighting that dark base coat. Dark base coats do make sense for some things, as I mentioned in my recent Patreon thing. When I talk about dark versus light style, there are definitely places for it. But when you need to get tiny details to stand out, that is not a great place for it. It can fight you then. You can end up being very frustrated. And as we all know, frustration is what I try to spare you guys, because it's the hobby killer. But now at least we have some detail up on her face. Now the glowing effect on the eyes is diminished a little bit because it's no longer so dark on the face. So you can see the difference. So what I maybe want to do then is take my dark, my shadow, my original base, and do a little bit of glazing, just targeted glazing around the eyes there. And if some areas of the muzzle to make it different. So it's not all uniform. So say I want to do a little bit around here, and through here, and down there. So I'm bringing in some more of my dark again. But I'm still being left with at least a bit of my bright. I'll take that down. And this is the fine tuning that you do. There we go. So I still have more highlights than I did over just the dark, but we've regained some of the contrast. And if I want, I can keep taking my base and I can paint it around that eye to really bring it back. But I don't want to lose all my detail. I want some of that detail to stay. It's not too bad. So my face is looking a little bit bluer than my lower legs, so I think I need to maybe glaze a little bit. Much as I tried to match those colors, even a little bit off, with teal is weird, because it turns from green to blue on just the tiniest of margins. So sometimes you have to futz if it looks just not quite close enough to what you did before. So I'm going to get some pure Tianzia jade. I'm going to make it into a glaze. We'll back up and show that. It's a very, very see-through color, so it does not take much. A 1-to-1 will turn it into a decently medium glaze. And then I'm going to paint. Oh, I got myself whited. I whited myself out. All right. Glaze over the top with the Tianzia. See how much greener that is? I'm going to leave the dark around the eye. I'm going to rinse out my brush, kind of get the moisture out of it a bit and pull off any excess. So that looks greener and it matches better. Yeah, that's good enough. Cool. And that glaze also unifies a bit of the everything. I feel like I want to mix up my highlight. 1 second. Two colors that I'm getting low on. So 1-to-1, Naga green, and tropical blue. Two of my favorite colors. I'm going to add some white to them as well. Those are our two colors. They've already got a little bit of white in the tropical blue. that really took over. So that's way too green. Need more tropical blue. Now we're closer. One more. Keep it a bit green. Still think I'm a little bit low, a little bit out though. There. All right, we'll work with that. I want my highlight to be greener anyway because if warm light falls on the model, it's going to warm up that teal and make it look more green. Alrighty. So I'm going to try that. Just try to get a little bit more detail on the top of the head here by outlining the crest a bit more. There's the crest. I'm going to put a hard shadow on either side of that by using my really dark teal. Again, we're just trying to isolate the features so they're visible. When you've got a lot of scales and stuff in a very small area, it can be hard to see what's going on. And highlights can bring out detail, but if you have too many of them and they're all like just a bunch of dots, then it gets very hard. Oh, I blurfed, but that's all right. It's in line with what I wanted to do. So I'm trying to bring out the scales there on top of the muzzle. I blurfed a little bit up onto the crest there, but that's okay, I can fix it. As you do more fine detail, you get more to where you understand that it's easy to fix things. You get less frustrated when you do have a blurf. When you're just starting out with this stuff, sometimes it takes so much back and forth to fix things. That's when the frustration sets in. That's when you kind of step back, leave the model, come back to it the next day when you're fresh. As you get tired, you absolutely can start making more mistakes, just like with anything. And fine detail is definitely one of those things. There's a time where you're in the zone and you're like just like awesome, I cannot fail. And then there's a time where you're like, oops, I pushed it too long and now I'm failing a lot. So I'm bringing in that light green on top of the very top of the head. And I'll be using our shadow color to separate stuff out when it gets a little globby. If I need to, I can take that dark teal and I can bring in some walnut, but I'm not really needing that right now. I will line around the horns right now, though. And I'll line the mouth. A lot of the underside of the jaw is going to be kept dark. There we go. So we're separating out the ear here, which I haven't really paid attention to. And we're putting that line and the shading in to help separate it from the horns on the crest. I'm also going to line around the jewelry here just because I have the time and I'm able to do it. I like, when I'm starting to put a fair amount of effort into highlighting and shading an area, I like to line around it to give me a better idea of what it all is going to look like. make everything sharp and clear so that I can judge it better, whether it needs more highlights or if it doesn't. If I'm not sure, then I'll hold off, do everything else. I'll probably do the horns next. But if you're not sure, you can hold off, complete more things around it, and get a better idea. All right. Let's get the other side of the head highlighted a bit. Now, because our highlight color does have white in it, it does cover a bit better than our mid. And since the top of the head turned out to be mostly this color, I'm just going to go in with it. There are many times when I'm painting where I'm taking an in-between step on the first time I try an area, and then upon finishing that area I realized that I can dispense with the in-between step. Like, so over here I didn't even bother to put in that mid-tone. I also need to take my liner and get those nostrils so that they continue to show up. We'll do a little bit of that white underpainting on the other side of the head. This time I'm going to limit it because I'm going to keep some of that dark Alright, I'm going to bring a little bit more into the ear here. Going to bring the mid-tone in first. I'm going to blend that in. I'm going to put a couple of coats over it, I think. I'm going to glaze, and then, there we go. Leaving the area around the eye darker is helping. Hi, Papa. Are you here to prove me wrong? Do you want to come and say hi to peoples? Come here. Come here, Papa. Kiki. Come here. Hi. No, I want you to come over here. Where are you? Come on. Come up. Come up. Good girl. There's my Kiki. There's my Kiki. Here's my girl. Hi. Hello, Big Fuzz. We need to brush you today. We need to brush you today. You need brushing so bad. So bad. Yes, you're so tussled. You're so tussled. Who's my tussle dog? Yeah, good girl. Good girl. Yeah, we're still working. Yep, give me another 15 or 20, okay, Bubba? Yeah, it's a good girl. You're a good girl. Yeah, then we'll take our walk, okay? But I've got to work, okay? Work. Work, Bubba. She's like, but I don't want work. She's very sad because David was home almost all last week because he was sick. And now she's got to go back to, let me glaze over this a little bit. Now she's got to go back to just being alone with me during the day. Very, very sad little Keekster. So, we've got a lot of little speckly bits here with these scales. They'll blend in a little bit as we go. It's not too bad. Trashorama with the 48-month quadruple sub-anniversary. Quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary, quadruple sub-anniversary. Happy quadruple sub-anniversary. There you go, Trash. Thank you. Cheers. The pause goes wild. I swear, Small Scottish Cat watches my show just waiting for those moments. There we go. So I think I need to kind of double down on these scales back up here on the brow. They're not as bright as they are on the other side. Alrighty, got that right there. I want a little bit, just a little bit of a touch of light on the underside of the mouth here. Gonna do just a tiny bit, because there'd be a little light that hits there, and that helps to define the mouth. On the other side, she's got a tooth coming out. I'm using the highlight here, but I'm using it straight over the dark, and I'm not going to accentuate it. And now I'm going to get the mouth in there. So let's get some walnut and put a line. So we've got that line of the mouth there. I'll have to clarify that area a little bit because it's not reading right. It'll read good. It'll read well on this side because I've highlighted it properly. There's also little teeths out in front of these teeths on either side. So more of a solid line. Let's tighten that. Get our highlight. Let's make sure that that looks right. I think this side looks pretty okay. I did go over a little bit of my highlight down here. That's good. This side needs help. That's better. And then we'll do the teeth. I'll actually just take some white and do the teeth real quick with a little bit of walnut in there. So tooth number 1. Technically there are other teeth here, but they're so tiny. So we'll just do a couple suggestions there. Yes, pure white. It has to be pure white if you're going to do glowing eyes, or like really close to pure white Slayer. Nothing else says glow. Yeah, without the white dot, it doesn't look nearly as much like glowing. Now I need to get the ear on this side. Oh, and I need to get the nostrils. And I need another higher highlight probably on these scales up on the top. We'll get there. The red is a little bit stronger on this side than on that side, but that's alright. I can actually double down on that a bit. How do you know she doesn't have a toothbrush, Warshadow? Sure, she keeps one around. This is a Paladin. She's got good hygiene by definition. But yes, I assume that a Paladin has a handy toothbrush tucked in somewhere. She's not wearing a pack, so either she has a pouch of holding somewhere or she's close to home. Yes, I'm painting her very fire and brimstone vengeance type god. I'll do this ear. All right. So tomorrow we'll be working on Karindra with her griffin promontory thingy. Who's it? We'll have to do all of her stonework before we do any snow, and I'll need to prime her little lantern. So the head is definitely reading the same color as the leg. That's good. We still have more to do up there, but we've gotten a lot of things tighten up. We have a lot to do on the rest of the model. We still have red to put on the stripe down the tail, so why don't we do that rather than mixing up a whole new bone color. Oh, I think I need a little bit more water in here. Our blood red dried out a little bit. Just a tiny bit though. So we have a red stripe to do down the inside or the outside of this leg. Right there. Got a little blurfy there, that's fine. I haven't lined this area yet, so it'll be easy to clean up. We gotta make sure we get the other side. Got a lot of red on this model. We still have a lot of shading to do on it though, and that's gonna drop that red down a bit. It's not gonna be quite so intense. It is a cool mini. That's why when Christine showed it to me at ReaperCon, I'm like, I put it on my calendar to do a Reaper order so I could get a free one. And I ordered an extra as well, so I can do a Goody Two Shoes version after I do the God of Volcanoes version. But yeah, having these little bits where you can put a stripe of color down between the two layers of scales is a very nice touch. It's really good for color accents. It's a good sculpt. Luca is only ever going to get dwarfs. Let's face it. Templar colors. I made up the Crusaders factions, so it's going to be Templar blue, gold, and white. Just like the Crusaders models. Or I should say Templar blue, white, plus gold accents. Hey, Roger. But I'll have to decide what parts are going to be, if she's going to be blue or if she's going to be, if the Goody Two Shoes version is white. I don't really want to do all those scales in white though, so I think I'm going to do her in blue with white and gold cloth and armor. I'm with Zachariah. Luca just needs to accept his dwarven destiny. We just need to have like somebody sculpt an entire line of barefoot dwarves, and he'll be fine. He'll be just fine. the red. Got all that. Got it everywhere I need to be. Except maybe the tiny pommel, which we can make as a ruby. We'll be doing a lot of neutrals on the rest of this. A lot of black, dark brown. There is a cloth right here, so I guess I will redify it. There. Alrighty. All the red. Yes, that's true. The Verna Clock one with 2 maces. Yep, we do have a Barefoot Dwarf. That needs to go to Luca's stat. Right there. Make a note, Luke. Make a note, Quindy. 3108. If he hasn't already painted it. It totally needs to be the special, the Luca special. I remember that model. Alrighty, I may do some red stripes on the handle, but I'm gonna actually get everything else together first before I decide on that. He won't paint metal. That's funny. What is this won't paint metal? Wow. Like, used to be like people wouldn't touch plastic. And now it's people won't paint metal? That's crazy talk. Alright guys, I think we're at a good stopping point for the stream. So this is our Dargon. We can definitely see her eyes, and that was my whole thing. Just wanted to be able to see those eyes. Once I darken down, I'll be darkening down the red with shading on the shoulder pads, and that'll make the eyes show up even better. I don't believe in metal only. I really don't. The plastic's too good now. The 3D print resin, I've never been against resin. Resin's always been one of my favorite mediums to paint. But yeah, the Bones USA Siocast and resin, I'm all in. It's as good as metal. Boing. She's coming along. We still have a lot of gray to cover up, which is going to be all neutral pretty much. All neutral and dark. But we have definite accents. We've got cool looking everything. Cool looking shield. Our red is for the most part blocked in. We have a lot of lining. Bones USA, yeah. I'm with him. I am with him. Bones USA. That's where it's at. So yeah, there we go, guys. And you got a lesson on glowing eyeballs, which people are always asking for, and I'm always saying, no, that won't work on this model because blah. So yeah, very different sort of Paladin. Very different sort of Paladin, but I like her, so. Yes, we are all good. And tomorrow will be Grindra. And I don't think I'm missing any time this week. All my medical stuff is in February, so next week. So yeah, so you get Anna all week. Yep. Drunk thumbs. You've got drunk thumbs, Zachariah. Alrighty. I have to go and take a small sad dog for her walk, everybody. So I hope that you have a lovely day. And yeah, thanks for tuning in as always. And yeah, we'll see you guys tomorrow, all right? Have a good one.